G'day and welcome to the how to play video of the Big Fish card game. The game all about marine ecosystems, fishing for the future, big fish and recreational fishing. Big Fish was developed because we're seeing a lack of big fish in the oceans, due mainly to activities like overfishing. Big fish are important in many ways. They produce more eggs, they're able to survive severe weather events and deal with things like climate change much better than smaller fish of the same species. The aim of the Big Fish card game is to get players to understand how to fish sustainably to make sure there's fish into the future. They do this by managing a fishing spot, where they can do actions like growing fish, spawning fish, catching fish, and upgrading the marine ecosystem with things like seaweeds that can increase how many fish an ecosystem can hold or support or help. There's also events in the game, and these can be things like marine heat waves, which have negative effects on your fish population and your ability to fish, or positive things like fisheries research, which increases the number of fish available for you to catch and have in your fishing spot. The game is for 2 to 4 players and takes between 20 minutes and 40 minutes to play, depending on the number of players. In managing a fishing spot, players must decide if they catch the big fish, the medium fish, or a smaller fish, and these decisions affect how many fish are available to catch and do things like grow and spawn in the future. So it's a real balance between fishing and leaving enough big fish for the future. The game has multiple types of cards within it. Fish cards, which have different point values and sizes. Wild cards that have different effects for each player. It could be positive or it could be negative. Round end cards. And these are events that happen in your fishing spot. As we said before, they can be positive or negative. To set the game up, first start by assigning the first player card, usually the player who most recently caught a fish. Then an esky for each player and a set of rules and scoring. Then we take the top 5 cards of the fish deck, which is the one with the blue on the background with the fish, and we place them in the face up card area. These are now face up fish cards. Each player is then given 5 cards, and then each player plays 2 big fish into their fishing spot. The fish cards in the Big Fish card game have 4 different sizes, and these signify the fish at its different life stages. Every fish starts at the larval phase, and we do this by having the card on its side, and that represents the larval phase. It then can grow to the juvenile, medium, and big phase. Depending on the orientation of the fish card in your fishing spot is what size it is. The rest of the cards remain in their hand. Then we take the round end deck and we want to first find the fishing season closed card. We put that to the side and we shuffle the remaining cards. Depending on the variant of the game you're playing, you might decide to use 8 of these cards, 7 of these cards, or a different number. Check the rulebook for further instructions. So we shuffle these round end cards, and then we set 4 aside. We then take the fishing season closed card, and we shuffle it back into the remaining round end cards. This fishing season closed card is how the game ends, and by shuffling it in, it makes a random ending, so we don't know when we have to stop fishing. We place those cards of the fishing season closed card on the table, and then the initial 4 cards we separated on top of that. So now we know the game is not going to end until the 5th round or later. Now we are ready to play Big Fish. To play a turn in Big Fish, we follow the turn order card with 5 steps that each player goes through on their turn. The first step is the draw phase, and we draw cards equal to the number of big fish we have in our fishing spot. I currently have 2 big fish, so therefore I can draw 2 cards. I can draw these cards from the face up cards or from the fish card pile. I'm going to draw them from the fish card pile. Next, I can spawn equal to the number of big fish that I have. The more big fish you have, the more eggs they lay, therefore the more spawning you can do. To spawn a fish, take it from your hand, place it down next to your other fish in your fishing spot, but place it in the larval phase. I've got 2 big fish, so I can spawn 2 larval fish. Remember, orientation is key. Next, we can do the grow phase. To the grow phase, again, number of big fish we have equals the number of grows we can do. Each fish though, with the grow phase, can only grow once per turn. So I'm going to grow this card into a juvenile, and the same with this one into a juvenile. Next, we can catch a fish. I only have 2 big fish, so I'm not going to catch a fish this turn because I want to have more fish in my fishing spot next turn. However, it's up to you if you catch a fish or not. However, you can only catch 1 fish per turn. And finally, we can play a wild card. Some wild cards are black wild cards, and they're played once only and then discarded and have an immediate effect. Other cards, such as this seaweed card, are green, or they might have other colours that match the turn order symbol in your how to play card. These cards stay in your marine ecosystem and give a positive effect to your fishing spot. So seaweed gets you extra grows, a marine park might let you spawn or draw extra cards, so on and so forth. I have a seaweed wild card, and that allows me to grow more fish each turn because seaweed helps with juvenile fish growing to bigger sizes by acting as a nursery habitat. So I place that in my fishing spot. It's a green card, and that green lines up with the grow phase in my turn order card, so I remember when it's applicable. And that is the end of a player's turn in Big Fish. Now, once every player's had their turn, that signals the end of a round in Big Fish. To end a round, follow the round end directions at the bottom of the card. First, we discard if we have more than 7 cards in our hand. I've only got 2, so I don't need to worry. Then we reset the face-up cards, and we put them in the discard pile. You can draw 5 new ones. These cards are also refreshed at the end of each player's turn. Then we reveal the top card from the round end card deck. And this is going to be an event card. Here we can see we have a plankton swarm occurs. And this allows every player to grow a larval fish into a juvenile fish. Unfortunately, I only have juvenile fish in my fishing spot, so I can't do anything right now. However, there are many other round end cards, such as sea urchins, which might cause me to lose my seaweed, or fisheries research, which might let me have an extra fish in my fishing spot. Finally, we take the first player card and we pass it to the player on our left. And that is the end of a turn and a round in Big Fish. The game ends once the fishing season closed card is drawn. Before we explain the end of the game, I'm going to go through a more complex turn that happens in the later phases of the game to show you how that works. So, we're at a later phase in the game. We've already had a few turns and our fishing spot is full of fish, and we've caught a few fish. So, remember, use the turn order card to go through. First, we want to draw. I have 3 big fish, so I'm going to draw 3 cards. I'm going to take 2 from the face up, and then I'm going to draw 1 from the fish card deck. Remember, I don't replace these cards until the end of my individual player turn. I now have lots of cards in my hand. Remember, at the end of the player round, you're going to have to discard to 7. So, I've done my draw phase. Now I can do my spawn phase. Again, I have 3 big fish, so I can spawn 3 cards. However, I also have a shellfish reef. It's got the red, just like on the turn order card, which signifies I use it during the spawning phase. It says, place it into your fishing spot to spawn a fish from the face-up cards each turn. So, these are the face-up cards, so I can spawn a larval fish from here into my fishing spot. I'm going to spawn the blue throat wrasse into my fishing spot as a larval fish. That's in addition to the 3 cards I can spawn as well from my hand. As you can see, I'm going to end up with a lot of fish in my fishing spot. Next, I can do the grow phase. Again, I have 3 big fish, so I can grow 3 fish. I also have the seaweed, which gives me an additional grow each turn. So, I'm going to grow the 2 medium fish I have to big, and I'm going to grow the juveniles to mediums, and that's 4 turns done for growing. Next is the catch phase. I can catch either one of my 5 big fish or one of the 2 medium fish. I can catch the other fish, however their point value doesn't add up and doesn't make it worth catching. I also have a fishing rod, and that grants me an extra catch each turn. So I'm going to start by catching the blue throat wrasse in its big size for 5 points. And then I'm also going to catch an abalone in its medium size for 3 points. Then I'm going to play a wild card from my hand. I'm going to play the CMS, Centre for Marine Socioecology wild card. And what that does is it grants me the ability to draw 2 extra cards and get one other player to draw a card, hence collaboration. So I'm going to draw 2 cards from the deck. Then my turn is over, I refresh the face-up cards for the next player, and play moves on. And that is the end of one of your turns in a more complicated later stage of the game. The game ends when we draw the fishing season closed card at the end of a round. As I said before, it can happen from the end of round 5 onwards. Once we draw this card, the game is immediately over and players add up their scores. Flip over the turn order card, you'll find the scoring on the back of that. To score, the first thing you want to do is count the fish in our esky. Remember, when you're counting the fish in your esky, keep the orientation correct. No cheating. So, I have a medium for 3, a big blue throat for 5, so on and so forth. So I'll add those points up. Then, I'm going to count up the points from my fishing spot. Each big fish is worth 2 points at the end of the game. So I'm going to count up my big fish. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 points each, that's 8 points. And then each other fish is worth 1 point. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 other fish in my fishing spot, hence another 8 points. So I have the fish in my esky, plus the big fish and the small fish, and that gives me my end of game score. The player with the highest score wins big fish. I hope you've enjoyed this how to play video of the Big Fish card game. If you get the game and you have a go, please leave us a comment below, as we'd love to know how you went. Until next time, keep fishing sustainably.